get to the wake-up call and Anthony Edwards with the dunk of the year or maybe the decade.
Warren did not score and only had one shot attempt in that first half. Another turnover for Utah. Edwards gets it back and threw it down and one from the rafters.
Legs, that's the kind of dunk that makes any attractive person give you the stink face when they see it. What is up with Ant-Man?
That's the kind of dunk that makes me real fortunate that I'm doing this for a living now. Because I remember I had to make some of those decisions right there that John Collins had to make, and I would usually make a different decision than he did.
Anthony Edwards, we were talking earlier in the green room about Jalen Brunson, how he can get his shot anytime. And it turned into an Anthony Edwards athletic love fest. How is Anthony Edwards now transcending the game when we talk about that throwback to that athletic, explosive dunker?
Yeah, you know, he's added a lot of polish to his game over the last couple of years with his handle, his mid-range, the way he can manage late games. But at the end of the day, Ryan, this is what brought our attention to Anthony Edwards in the first place. And every now and then he has to remind you that he can do things athletically few guys in this league can.
Well, we're going to run the hurry up right now or run the floor. I'm thinking about the football season, Legs. We are way into basketball. Last night, the Lakers dismantled Atlanta. LeBron, AD, D'Angelo Russell all had great games. Is this big three enough to get the Lakers in a deep run? And why has it been so successful?
Deep run, I think, is improbable. But look, they have nights like this, particularly when D'Angelo Russell gives them that supplemental offense. It gives them that three-point threat to take the pressure off of LeBron and AD, where you think they still could be dangerous.
Okay, also now we saw Jason Tatum's and the Celtics. They breezed past the Detroit Pistons. We get 31 from Jaylen Brown. He's playing some of his best ball of his career. How much do they need him if they want to make a deep run?
This is the best Jaylen Brown has ever played. And he's putting it all together right now. His efficiency, his scoring, his defense is there every night. And then more importantly, his playmaking has really taken off to another level. Jaylen Brown really helping out Jason Tatum.
And again, Jason Tatum wasn't there last night, but Jaylen Brown steps up and becomes the star and number one that they need. Speaking of stars and number one, Jalen Brunson had a huge night last night in a win over Golden State. How much of a factor will the Knicks be in the playoffs?
Well, they're dangerous because of what Jalen Brunson can do. I mean, this guy is in control out there on a level that few players in this league are. The question is going to be their health. OG Anunoby out again right now. Julius Randle, we haven't heard anything about him. I don't know if they're going to have enough to make a serious run at the East, but Jalen Brunson is a guy that's going to keep you in games and make you a very difficult out.
I mean, you watch the New York Knicks. You have Jalen Brunson stepping up, becoming a superstar. Josh Hart has played the most minutes of anybody in the entire NBA since the All-Star break. He goes 48 last night. This is a team that's finding ways to win. And I know Stephen A will be really excited if they do make a deep run. But speaking of deep runs, a team that we're used to seeing is the Golden State Warriors. Right now, the Golden State Warriors take another step back. This year, they're the only team to have a winning record for the entire season, but a losing record at home. They are currently 10th in the West standings, 3 games from falling out of the playoffs entirely. When we think about the Golden State Warriors, Tim, we're used to this team finding ways to win, and also in those critical championship moments, we see their big three, we see the championship medal. What's been wrong with this team this season that they can't seem to find that stride?
The biggest issue with the Warriors this year is that they haven't really had everybody playing at a high level offensively at the same time. It's sort of been take your pick on a given night outside of Steph Curry. And the inconsistency as a result has been difficult to overcome because this is not an elite defensive team. The way that those teams were that were winning championships when they were pretty much always ranked in the top 5 in defensive rating, that's not this team. This team is smaller. This team has a difficult time securing rebounds when the game is on the line. They don't really have a physical presence on that end of the floor the way that they did. So therefore, you need to be great offensively to overcome that in most places, and they just haven't been. They've had too many guys playing below their career norm other than Steph Curry. And that's why we watch them some nights. If they get it going on that given night, we think, wow, you can't write this team off yet. Yeah. But then you see too many nights when it's just hit or miss, and it seems like they're just treading water, trying to stay alive, and that's just not going to be good enough in a loaded West.
Yeah, and watching that game last night, Steph has the slow start, no points in the first quarter. You thought he was starting to come along, but then Jalen Brunson and New York Knicks find a way to finish the game off. But all right, Legs.
Yeah.
We saw it happen in real time.
Yeah.
But I'm always with Dan Orlovsky on the touchscreen. So I'm excited to get a legs touchscreen as well. Tell us what happened on this play.
Well, something like this, really what you're breaking down is just the thought process involved here with some of these people, right? So let's start off with this. Anthony Edwards is going to throw this ball ahead. And right about here, look at John Collins. And John Collins, he's looking here at the corner. That's fine. But the apex predator is coming here. Okay. He's looking in the wrong place at the wrong time. And by the time he turns around, right about here, Brian, you know what he's saying? He's thinking to himself,
I know I done messed up, didn't I?
He's saying, should I? Do I have time to go up? Now remember, John Collins, by the way, has crazy bounce, but his hands are down. And that is not a good indication. He's in a relaxed state. You know why? Because you're not used to people coming at you with this level of rage. That's just straight rage. There's no other way to describe it. He even hurts his offhand on a dunk with his right. But I want to go back and take a look at this. If you're John Collins and you really have a problem with one of your teammates, it's Keontae George right here. You know why? Because he easily could have just right here. He could have stopped this whole thing by just bumping Anthony Edwards a little bit right there in the backcourt. But instead, watch what he does. He waves at it. And now Anthony Edwards has a full run. And again, take a look here. He's looking here. Anthony Edwards is looking straight at him. He's looking at the rim. And this is the last part right here. He's going to go take off. I want you to watch the reaction when it's all said and done. Oh my goodness! Look at Colin. Look at that right there. He can't even believe what he saw.
Legs. Also, too, though, John Collins got to make a business decision. In that situation, you act like you thought you were going to stop the pass over here, and you just allow Anthony Edwards to dunk it.
He also had 1 foot in the restricted area. There's a reason that's restricted. You can't
because you get dunked on
because you can't be that deep. That's why they put that arc in there in the first place, because you can't be that deep and think about jumping. Here's what happened to John Collins with this. He's got so much up, he thought he could make a last-second play on it.
He thought he'd get the vertical and get the block.
And as soon as he jumped, he ducked his head because he knew, like, oh, this could be bad. And it turns out it was worse. Thank goodness he's okay. Hopefully he's okay. But, man, that's going to live on for a long time, that clip.
Time for a little eye candy, and it is so sweet. And for that, we head back to Utah for this monster poster dunk by Anthony Edwards over John Collins. I mean, we've seen this a lot of times, guys, and it keeps getting better to me, Legs.
It's one of those things where a couple times a year, right? I'm watching games every single night, and maybe twice a year, where I'm going to yell out when I see something happen, and this is one of those moments for sure.
Boog, early on, we talked about this play and compared it to Anthony Edwards' game-winning block versus the Pacers. Which play was the better for Anthony Edwards?
For me, I'm going to go with the game-winning block, guys, because when I think about a dunk, I don't want you to just get your head over the rim. I want you to pull the rim down. Like, is it really a dunk if the rim doesn't move? To me, when you get up, like, his neck is over the rim on that block. So I'm going to take the block over the dunk, because in the dunk, to me, he didn't touch the rim and pull the rim down hard enough.
All right, Tim, you said earlier the fact that he was high enough to get fouled, dislocate a finger, and throw it in the rim was enough for you. So are you going dunk or block here?
Well, a couple of things. I'm going dunk, and I'm going to refute what Boog said here. Just like if I were to dunk a basketball and not touch the rim, I'm still counting it as a dunk. Now, maybe that says more about my athletic ability than anything else, but like this is absurd. He's so high, he literally just like throws it down, like I'm throwing a piece of paper into the trash. Like that's how he threw it. Like his right foot is nearly on the foul line when he takes off. Like I'm not sure. Like did he even know where he was? Like that to me is absurd. The athleticism is crazy.
Hey, but Legs, also, this started with Blake Griffin years ago.
Yes.
You remember the foul, he throws it into the rim. Is this enough for you to count it as a dunk?
Absolutely is. And that's exactly what I thought it was Blake Griffin, because two of his best dunks ever were similar, right? Where he's sort of throwing it in, his fingertip is just getting to the rim. But if you want to know if this is a dunk or not, I think you probably should ask John Collins what he thinks. He's probably going to say, yeah, it felt like a dunk to me, for sure. But I'm also going to go with the block in terms of more important, because the dunk is expected now of Anthony Edwards. That block, that was something that was almost like an out-of-body experience to go make a play like that to save a game, and I think it just enhances his reputation.
And also, we don't go back to all of LeBron's dunks in that Cleveland Cavaliers series where they beat the Warriors, but we constantly talk about his block of Andre Iguodala.
Right.
And that was the play that saved the series. Now, we'll get to some more NBA. We're going to play a game of Legler for three. We want to get your take on three topics. Which team is more likely to miss the playoffs, the Warriors or the Lakers?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say the Warriors. I just don't think the consistency is there. I just don't think they have enough consistent support every night around Steph Curry. I also think they're small. And when it comes down to those one-possession games, 3-4 minutes to go, you've got to have some size to get stops and size to secure the defensive rebound. I just think that's a weakness for Golden State. So, unfortunately, I don't see them making it out of the play-in.
Legs, real men wear makeup. And when you were getting your makeup before the show, you talked about Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
Is he enough to carry the Knicks to the conference finals?
He is enough. These are two separate questions, though. Is he enough, and are the Knicks enough? I think right now, as banged up as the Knicks are, without Julius Randle, and we just haven't heard anything about him. It's a mystery if we're going to see Julius Randle at all. Without Julius Randle, I think it's going to be difficult for the Knicks, but Jalen Brunson is that guy. He is good enough to control a game, to control a series, to give the Knicks a legitimate shot. They just need to be fully healthy.
What does Joel Embiid's return mean for the 76ers?
You talk about X factors. We talk about that all the time. Could there ever be a bigger X factor than Joel Embiid returning to the Philadelphia 76ers with a handful of games to go before you start the Eastern Conference playoffs? Because right now there's question marks about every single team besides Boston. What that means, Philadelphia is going to be in that mix. Because here's the one thing he's going to have. Fresh legs.
Yeah.
Now, he's going to be coming back on a minutes restriction. His stamina probably won't be great, but he is going to feel really energized, and that is a problem for everybody in the East. So, yes, throw their name in the ring. As long as all these teams can avoid Boston in the first two rounds, they've got a legitimate shot to get to the conference finals. There's 4 or 5 teams in that category.
Now, listen, I know he hasn't played enough games this year to be the MVP, but you're going to get MVP caliber play from Joel Embiid. You mentioned avoiding Boston. Why would that series be so difficult for the Sixers?
I think right now Boston's just on a different level. They're a buzzsaw offensively with what they do, with the number of guys on that team that shoot the three at a high level. And then they've got 2 breakdown players, huge isolation winners in Jaylen Brown and Tatum. And I think for Boston particularly, Jaylen Brown is playing the best basketball of his career. I think you get in your prime from 25 to 31 as an NBA player. He's 27 years old, and it is all coming together right now for Jaylen Brown. And I think it's the most comfortable Jason Tatum has been because of that going into a playoff run. It's Boston and everybody else. If you ask me Boston or the field in the East, I'm taking Boston. That's how good they've been this year.
Joe Mazzulla seems to still have to prove that he could be the sort of coach to help this team win a championship. And also seeing that duo of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum win is things that the people on the outside are waiting to see. They go heavy ISO ball, especially late in games. When you think about them in 7-game series against some of the best in the NBA, does that duo have enough to win it?
You brought up they have 2 vulnerabilities. One is that they slow the game down too much, I believe, in the fourth quarter, and they fall into some of those patterns. The other thing is, as elite as this team is at shooting the three, and they take more than any team in the league, they shoot an outrageous percentage, they end games basically by what they do to you at the three-point line. They sometimes can hunt that shot, I think, too often, too early in the clock. If you don't force defenses to play them at their best when they're putting 2 feet in the paint and getting teams to react and then kicking out and taking a more unbalanced open three. So when they hunt that shot early, I think they're doing defenses a favor. So those are the 2 things. If you want to nitpick a team that's had an incredible year, those would be the 2 ways. I think Mazzulla's come a long way with his late game management. I have a lot more faith in him, I think, this year than I did a year ago because it was just handed to him before the season. This is different now. I think he's more comfortable in his own skin in those situations as well.